Alright guys, Hatchcoming again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying all day. So far, some fascinating words exchanged between Yoda King, now known again as iLLeY, and Pred over the last couple of days. iLLeY indicating the potential return to the CDL with Pred might be on the cards. With Cloud9 New York struggling right now, many have linked Pred to potentially go back with some of the guys that he's played with before over there. But also iLLeY, could he be in the conversation with a couple of different teams? And with Dallas Empire and Envy back on the menu, is that something to think about as well? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, thought this was a really cool picture actually, as Dashy says, I was shooting right at Formal, and this is the picture in question. We can see Formal in the background next to some of the pros. I think this is probably from the Last Chance qualifier in 2017, just before the Infinite Warfare World Championship, because the team in the foreground were Allegiance, right? I think you can actually see even on their jerseys. This was the team of, man, was this Mayhem? I think this was Mayhem. This might have been Believe, maybe Spoof, one of these two. I think that was the team anyway. We can see the Straight Rippin logo in the background on the far right as well. That was the team that Dashy was on with Studdy, Temp and Ricky, wasn't it? They qualified for the World Championship, as I think did these guys. But yeah, you can see some of the pros in the background, namely Formal, enjoying the action here. And yeah, just a pretty legendary moment I thought in COD history actually. Even as Hitch says, you know, love at first sight. Dashy says he's still playing hard to get. And even Formal was sending the replies and said, bro, give it a rest. I was just looking for dope by the pro players. So yeah, pretty good stuff. I thought this was nice. This is like the Columbus studio, isn't it? Just before they went into the World Championship a few weeks later. That's what I think it's from anyway. Intrigued to your thoughts if you know any better in the comment section below. Just quickly on Formal, we know that he's won multiple World Championships across multiple titles. This though was particularly impressive, I thought. That, you know, this is Marvel Rivals, but this is played on keyboard and mouse, isn't it? And here's OpTic Formal getting, what, top 5 in the world? Something like that. So, yeah, I just know. This got a lot of traction because I think people thought it was incredibly impressive for those that have actually played Marvel Rivals to see how Formal's been getting on the grind over there. Just an update on Kremp. As I said last night, I wasn't sure exactly what happened to him to go out of the race because we didn't see it. Turned out what happened is he made a mistake. He like double pedaled, pressed the throttle and the brake at the same time, and then hit the wall, and then his car was broken and he was out of the race. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Like, you know, losing is learning or whatever they say. So Kremp will be back today, I think, to finish out the week, and hopefully he can get the dub here, because always painful when you squander the lead. But a few things to get into here before we discuss the iLLeY Pred Dallas Empire potential situation. Shotzzy was giving his thoughts on his controversial take about the players, you know, they should have bought a house by now, this type of stuff. Of course, it's all relative to a player's particular position. Obviously, with Shotzzy, he's been on the same organization now for a bit of time. He can settle in Dallas, no problem. Other players, if they're moving around teams, maybe they're living in Carolina one year, maybe they're living in Florida, maybe they're living in Texas, Toronto, LA, wherever. It's not so easy for them if they're a player to, you know, lock things down in terms of getting a house sorted. But, you know, that was obviously Shotzzy's perspective on some of the pros not taking it as serious as they might otherwise do. But speaking of OpTic, we know that they've played very competitive series lately against Ravens, against Boston. And yesterday, Boston came through and basically slammed out the Ravens. Now, Slasher had a pretty rough series. But to be fair, as I've said yesterday, Ravens' hardpoint now for some time has looked pretty atrocious. It shouldn't be a massive surprise that a team that came out of the gates and surprised everyone at the start of the game isn't going to be able to maintain that. Like, Ravens, I thought they'd be pretty good. I liked their team coming into the season, but they started off the year 4-0. They made the grand finals at the minor. That level of play was probably not sustainable, especially when it was absolutely reliant on their search and destroy. And look, if they went game 5 last night and they won a respawn, they might have won the series again. But, you know, that's the problem with your respawn being pretty bad. And there's always a bit of a debate, really, in terms of which game mode is actually more important. Because search and destroy wins championships. We know that as Nadeshot. I think it was Nadeshot anyway. Don't really know where the quote came from, but it's always attributed to Nadeshot. Famously said, But technically, hardpoint should be the more important mode, because you're more likely to play 2 hardpoints in a series than you are 2 search and destroys, because the series can finish in 4 if you win both your hardpoints, whereas it can't finish that early if you win both your search and destroys. So both game modes are very important, obviously, as is control, but technically, if you had to choose whether you could be a 100% win rate hardpoint team or a 100% win rate search and destroy team, I think by the numbers, you should probably take the hardpoint team, because then you've got kind of more chances to close out the series, if you see what I'm saying. So eventually this was going to come back to bite them. To be fair for Ravens, it actually might come at a pretty good time, because you know, when you start the league so well, especially as an underdog team, you're probably thinking, wow, like, you know, we're going to win an event this year, whatever. And then you lose to Boston in this manner. Boston, not going to lie, they might be top 5 in the league right now. They may comfortably be top 5 in the league right now. These guys have been looking nice. And PurJ, man, this guy, what a comeback, what a redemption arc. Well, we saw some of the numbers from his map yesterday, but genuinely that map on Vault Hardpoint was one of the best individual performances that I've ever seen from a player. Like, he was doing everything. He wasn't just slaying, he was getting trades, he was rotating, he was building space for his team, he was getting hill time, he was taking routes. Like, this guy was doing it all, and he had 37 non-traded kills. So, yeah, remarkable map from PurJ. Great to see his turnarounds, and we'll see how Boston can fare from here, because right now PurJ and Snoopy are easily a top 5, if not a top 4, maybe better, SMG duo in the game. And I genuinely think that's a fair take as it stands. This, I want to know what you guys think. This is what the CDL put together on Friday. They brought this up on screen before the matches began on Friday, talking about their current power rankings. There's no S-tier team in their analysis, and I think that's probably actually kind of fair. Like, FaZe, they won the minor, but with their performances before that, you can't really put them S-tier. Thieves, they lost to FaZe. OpTic, they didn't make the finals. They came top 4. So it's difficult to say anyone is in the S tier, especially if you then want to put Ravens in the conversation. To me, Ravens justified their inclusion in the A tier with these guys based on performances and their actual results. But in terms of how they were getting those results, I feel like Ravens were always on the verge of having a tough loss. And that's kind of what we saw yesterday. The B tier, though, is interesting because, I mean, Rocker, Ultra, and Boston are here. I guess Rocker is justified after their result, their progress, what they did at the minor. But yeah, to me, I would say FaZe, Thieves, OpTic, you know, Toronto, Boston. To me, that's the top 5 in the game right now in some order or another. I think I'd have Ravens as the 6th best team, probably. Maybe just ahead of Minnesota as the 7th best. Would I put them in the same tier? Maybe. And then it gets kind of interesting because, like, okay, Falcons are in the F tier for Falcons. D is obviously going to be surged there somewhere. I mean, they beat Falcons yesterday, but it wasn't pretty. They've not looked great. Gentlemates, they were in the D tier as well, but they did beat Cloud9. So to me, I think you've got a relatively clear-cut top 7. I think these teams in the A and the B tier here are the best 7 teams in the game. But then after that, in terms of trying to tier list or even rank the teams, I think it becomes very challenging because Cloud9 have lost a couple of times now to Gentlemate and to Heretics. How good actually are Heretics? Not really sure. Are Gentlemates significantly better than they've appeared after 3-0 in Cloud9? I don't really think so. So I don't think this was too far off the money on the Friday, and I would make a couple of changes as of today, but it's probably not far off where we currently sit as a league. I think what's kind of exciting about it really is that the fact that it's a reverse pyramid, right? It's not one great team that's winning everything and then it goes down from there with many terrible teams. It's many teams that could potentially win, several teams that we don't know who is 4th, 5th, 6th best right now, and then, you know, some pretty atrocious teams down the bottom of the league. But also even then, you don't know who's going to win or lose. Cloud9 have played some bad cards, as of all of these teams down here, but with the exception of Falcons, anything can realistically happen among those bottom teams, in my opinion. Of course, there might be another logo on this grid coming soon, and that could be Envy, or potentially Dallas Empire, depending on what happens. Hastro confirmed the other day that he's reacquired the brand. We don't know how that worked behind the scenes with OpTic. Maybe we'll never know. I'm sure we'll get some indications at some point into the future. But Hastro reacquired the brand name, not maybe the assets behind the brand, but he has the brand and he can run with it, and he's bringing Envy back into Apex Legends, and I'm sure that he will want to bring Envy or Dallas Empire, whatever, back into Call of Duty at some point. Maybe just Empire works as well. He'll probably prefer Envy. The bottom line is Yoda has made the comeback to iLLeY as a gamer tag. He hasn't yet received the iLLeY at back in business, but iLLeY was on Dallas Empire when he won his World Championship back in 2020 with Shotzzy, with Huke, with Clayster, with Kremp, with Rambo as the coach over there, with Hastro leading things up behind the scenes. So with Empire, Envy, whatever, returning as a potential brand in Call of Duty at some point, look, it's not going to happen anywhere until next year at the best of times regardless, but it is absolutely plausible that Envy come back into Call of Duty, and surely iLLeY would be on the radar of that type of conversation, as would many other players as well. It could be very, very interesting if, let's say, OpTic, things don't go to plan, Huke ends up disappearing, and, you know, what if Envy said, look, Huke, come back. I mean, Huke was the mainstay on Envy for years, in Halo even, in Call of Duty. You know, they sent him on loan to Splice for that event at the end of Black Ops 4 to keep him happy, but they still brought him back to Envy and put him on Dallas Empire for the new year, and then he won the World Championship. So this was what was said in Pred's chat. So yeah, CDL Radar, a couple of other guys pointed this out to me as well, thank you very much. He was in Pred's chat saying, let's get our chem up, gotta start early. Now, of course, this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but still, the point still stands that iLLeY, YodaKing, whatever, is in Pred's chat saying, hey, like, you know, let's start playing some games, get our chemistry up. Because there's a feeling that Pred will be back at some point. I don't think Pred's ever coming back to OpTic, but I think he will be back at some point into the league. Potentially he could be back quite quickly. I know there's been lots of talk about whether Cloud9 need to do quite a lot of blowing it up over there and say, all right, you know, Mack's been our best player, we're keeping him around. Kremp, I think, has maybe been their best player, arguably, as well. I think Kremp's been very good for them, really. But I just feel like if they are going to make changes, C9, he might end up being the odd man out there somewhere. I also don't think a one-man change might be enough. So some people have said, what if you bring iLLeY and Pred in as like a package deal to Cloud9? Would that help them? It probably would, actually. I think certainly getting Pred has got to be something they're thinking about, even if it means changing the roles around to some degree. It's a possibility. But also, if that doesn't happen, what if we go into next year, iLLeY and Pred haven't been re-signed, but then Dallas Empire or Envy, they come back in, they buy out one of the franchises, they get back into the spots. These guys are, you know, it's plausible that iLLeY and Pred is a duo that we see over the next couple of years. So yeah, that's what YodaKing iLLeY is talking about last night, and obviously we saw this yesterday from Swagcheck talking about how maybe Pred in a Dallas Empire jersey is not an unrealistic possibility in the relatively near future. So intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below on that one. But before we close out the video, we've got to talk about the matches for this evening, and finally we actually have some good ones. So yeah, here we go, just so that's pretty much on the screen. These are the 3 games of today. So Gentlemates play Ultra. This on paper is like, well, Ultra should be the favourites, and I think they will win the series. Ultra, the issue is for them is that in many ways they're like Ravens, apart from the fact that they lost to, of course, Minnesota at the minor. And that's kind of what Ravens nearly did, right? Ravens nearly lost to Cloud9 at the minor. They were down 5-3 in the map 5, but they won it, and therefore they ended up beating OpTic as well, and then Ravens came top 2 and looked pretty good. But if Ultra, they also got a bye in the tournament, had they beaten Minnesota in that game 5, as they did again just the other day when they played again online, could have been a very different story, that tournament for Ultra, and their search and destroy has been just excellent so far this season. As good, you could argue, as Ravens, or at least not far away. Gentlemates, they 3-0'd Cloud9 the other day. That was impressive. If Priester plays as well as he did before, sure. But until I see Priester do it 2 series in a row, I'm not yet convinced. So I think the Ultra are the favourites. I actually think it's going to be close. I'm taking a Game 5 Ultra win again. That's my prediction. And I think we can have a couple of Game 5s today, because then we have Thieves OpTic. This is the big one. This is what people have been looking forward to now for some time. And who's the favourite? I genuinely have no idea. I saw a Reddit thread on this. Nobody could seem to agree, because OpTic have played well by the numbers lately. I mean, they came obviously top 4 at the minor, was better than Thieves, because Thieves went down to FaZe and didn't play again. But obviously OpTic have looked a bit shaky against even Falcons lately, but they did beat Boston at the minor, a team that I rate pretty damn highly at the moment. So, and then you got Thieves, who were 4-0, but none of those series they really played impeccable Call of Duty to the level they would have wanted to, and they lost to FaZe at the minor. They seem relatively under practice compared to where they would like to be. I don't know the answer to this question. To be honest today, I think I'm thinking Thieves. I think I'm going to lean their way in this one in again, but I think it's going to be a Game 5. And then Minnesota FaZe, I do think FaZe are going to close out the series as they did against Rocker during the minor tournament. I think it's going to be a relatively similar series. Rocker will put up a fight, but FaZe will have too much gas in the tank. That's my opinion. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Why do I keep seeing people talk about you roasting people about houses?
Maybe I was tweaking, but I basically said that, like,
any pro player that has been in the scene for more than 5 years, I feel like it's embarrassing that they don't have an house. Am I tripping off that?
Not necessarily but most pro players move.
Let's say you do move. Let's just say you're buying it for like investing reasons, like because at the end of the day, you want an asset, right?
But you weren't bragging about how many houses you own.
Oh hell no!
Oh, okay, that's what I kept reading is how many houses does he own?
No, I just tried giving them a reality check, like yo, lock the fuck in, bro. This scene, not only is it dying, but like yo ass is about to fucking go out with no damn asset.
Nah,
but am I tweaking for that? I'm still standing on business because like let's say you've been in the league for 5 years, right? And let's just say you, for whatever reason, are only beginning paid $5K out the 5 years, right? $300,000 in those 5 years. That's just your salary. That's not including what your tournament winnings, this and that. So $300,000 in 5 years, like.
I mean, I don't think you're tweaking because I think if I could go back to my 23-year-old self and give him advice, it would all be financial advice. Yeah. All of it. OpTic fans, they all praise Big Timer for how smart he is because he invested his money that he made from COD. And that's basically what you're saying but you just said it in a tweakable way.
I'm pretty sure I was on 100 in either 30 grand or 60 grand my first year. And bro, I didn't play a competitive HP hardpoint until I fucking joined the league. So imagine
you're a little bit of a different story.
Imagine, but imagine that people have been in the scene and that have like
that's still insane to me.
Still played then to now. Yeah, like, I know how much they're getting.